Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel where I review anything and everything. And today I just wanted to get into a discussion about the new Canon R6V that's released. Obviously what's in front of you is not that. I am not fortunate to be able to get a free or early access to the camera, but I wanted to jump into it a bit. I was actually gonna do a whole different setup as far as my video, talking head and this and that, but I didn't have time. I just wanted to really hit it today because a lot of people are dropping their opinions on the R6V, and I really kind of wanted to talk some points into it because I do follow the world of cameras and whatnot. Even though I really am not like heavy into, that high cinema level, at least not as of yet or anything of that sort. But I know of those things and know a little bit of those space, and just wanted to give a little bit of thought process on it, more from what I feel like the average consumer would be feeling like when it comes to that type of setup. So a lot of people are wondering, like, where does it fall into place? I see a lot of people saying that it is good, in terms of they like the idea of it. They like, where it falls into place and this and that. But I actually have a slight different opinion on it. Not to say that it's bad or good, but just where it falls at versus, because a lot of people who are either have it early in hand or just talking about it or reviewing it or whatever the case is, are talking from a perspective of pro level videographers, pro level content creators. And what I mean by that is like people who do cinematic video, maybe even movie type of stuff. Maybe they do like low budget, low key movie stuff on the side. They do cinematic videos. They may do cinematic event videos, maybe for like weddings and things of that sort. Because a lot of these guys who, are primarily photographers will do things like, weddings, little gigs or this and that, whatever the case is that they get into. But the point is that they're coming from a perspective of these people have used, the Canon C50, which came out a couple of months before. They've used, which we're going to get into that in a little bit. They've used the C80, the C70, the C400, the C500. They've used these other cameras, even from other camera companies, the higher end Blackmagic. Some of them use some of the Red cameras. So they've used these things, these tools, from a perspective of a professional videographer or a professional filmmaker. A lot of them, even if they're on that kind of, entry level of that, they still have those skills, is the point I'm trying to make. And I think that perspective is a lot different from the concept of the V line versus cinema line. Because you see a lot of the people who are talking, and they're talking from the standpoint of really trying to compare it to the C50V, the C50, I'm sorry, getting all these letters mixed up. The C50, the cinema camera, versus obviously the R6V, which is for their video line, more similar to the R50V. And the truth is that when you're looking at it from those perspectives, a lot of people are comparing some of the things in it, and there are a lot of things in it. So let's get the price point out of the way first. The R6 Mark III comes in, if I'm not mistaken, at, I'm just going to round up the number. I'm not going to do 99, whatever. So I believe it comes in about $2,800. And this camera, the R6V, is coming in at roughly about, I think, $300 cheaper. So it's $2,400. So then I think the other one is $2,700. Yeah, so I think the R6 Mark III is $2,700 and the R6V is coming at $2,400. So a $300 discount, which they needed to make it cheaper because otherwise, why? If they have the same internal sensor and the same internal recording capabilities, there's almost no reason you're going to choose the one that doesn't have, a viewfinder and those options to be a better hybrid stills camera and video camera versus, say, the one that is just really focused more so on video camera, even though you can take photos with it, but obviously you don't have a viewfinder. So I think making it a cheaper price makes sense, along with the fact that the R50 versus the R50V, the R50V was cheaper because you're losing the, like I said, that same thing. the viewfinder, and maybe a few other things. Now, they do make the form factor and the button layout better for you doing videography, which is great. And that will be obviously makes it more focused for someone who's like, I want video and I get a cheaper discount than buying the camera version of that, which is the R6 Mark III. So that's good. Here's where I think the problem comes into play. When you match it up against the C50, which once again, the R6 Mark III and the C50 have the same camera sensor, 7K open gate, raw recording. What happens is you start comparing the C50, which if I'm not mistaken is about $3,600 maybe. So it's roughly about $3,500. So it's roughly about $1,000 more than the R6V. So in that regard, it's like, all right, that's a great discount when it comes to them being almost similar. There are some things that are a little bit different, but they're almost similar. But then when you factor in the fact that the handle, there's no handle with XLR audio coming in, then what you realize is that handle for the Canon C50 is actually worth about $500, or actually a little more, because right now there's an off-brand camera handle mic attachment that you can attach to Canon cameras that have the hot shoe, the new thing in the newer hot shoes, not on the older cameras, but in the newer cameras. And it runs for about $400. It's essentially like a handle audio kind of little equipment piece. And that's made from a third-party brand that the quality of it is not even on par with the Canon. So since that's $400, let's say the Canon actually is valued at, just doing that kind of conversion, we'll say the Canon is at least worth $600. Now, you can't buy a handle for any of the V lines, which I'm sure at some point they're gonna probably make a generic handle that goes for the V lines, all of them, because they have an attachment point in the shoe mount. It's not a regular hot shoe mount. There is a actual, for those who are not familiar with it, it looks similar to like maybe a HDMI port or something very thin like that underneath this part. So so when it slides in, it's actually plugging in. And you know, that might be something that comes down the line that they do for all the V line. But the fact they aren't releasing something like this right now for the R6V with XLR audio, for maybe like $200, essentially, if somebody needed that higher professional audio, and there are third-party things, like I said before, that could connect to the hot shoe and whatever the case is and give you some enhanced audio better than just a 3.5 microphone jack, which is not bad, but professionals still want the XLRs. My point is, a professional videographer or movie maker, whoever it is gonna simply say, well, I prefer those XLRs. And so they're gonna say, if I value, excuse me, you guys, if they were to say, I value better audio, and if I had to put a price tag on that better audio, you know, I'll scale up to, we'll say, at least $700. Well, then you're $300 away from having the C50 at that point. So that $1,000 cheaper price is not just simply a $1,000 cheaper price. And we get that. It's not gonna just be the same camera and be cheaper price. But I'm gonna kind of hit on something in a moment. So that becomes an issue, because now it's like saying, well, this camera is not catering necessarily to the professionals, even though it's trying to, in the sense that it has some nice features. The price point in the specs of it kind of go up to that level of almost professional level. I'd probably say prosumer. Because the C50 in itself is slightly watered down from the fact that you don't have internal ND filters and a few other kind of features that you might find on, like, say, a C80. So, but it's fine because it gives you at least just enough, at least with the handle, that the audio's there. Most of the things there. You can put an external ND filter on it. You get the point. But once you start taking away certain of the things that you can't necessarily add to a camera body per se, or it's harder to add to it because these are things like there's certain things that you need to come with the camera, like I said, with the handle and have the XLR ports. So the R6V now kind of eliminates itself from the professionals, which is fine. It's completely fine because it's the V line, and that's the idea of the V line. Is supposed to be more for like the content creators, you know, the kind of vloggers and all that. Here's where we enter the R50V and we start realizing that there's a big gap. The R50V, normally I see it, the average price retail is like $620, often on sale for $500, like $70. 565 and some change or something like that. It's usually, it's on sale even right now at the time of this video. And that gap, that camera really caters to the content creators and vloggers. People who are doing content on social media do not need raw video. No one needs raw video for doing content on social media. You can even though it doesn't shoot raw, it does have a C-Log on the R50V. You've got a Rec 709, which is another recording format that you can do some good editing with. You can do your color correction on a R50V, and it's still gonna look nice for social media, because social media, one, is often viewed on your phone. Two, even if you're viewing it on TV, it's not, you don't need a movie experience. It's still gonna look good. It's still gonna look crisp. It's even if it's on your big screen TV at home. But when you're watching it, your expectation is not for it to be this ultra high def movie. So even though it's still gonna look good, it doesn't need to be raw and 8K, and it doesn't need to be that when you're watching from social media, because your mindset is not viewing it the way you would a movie. My point to that is that, so the R50V is great for all that market of what the V line is for. Keep in mind, the V line is for more so content creators, and the C line, the cinema line, is more for people who want to go to that movie level, or at least have the option to go to that movie level of creation, even if they're not doing it. While the R6V should bridge that gap, it's a little flawed, because when you compare the R6V to the R50V, and yes, the R50V is cropped, the R6V is full frame, it shoots raw, it's so much better. It is roughly $2,000 more expensive, almost $1,900 more expensive. But when you look at who it's targeting, it really is not targeting the vloggers, because it's kind of pricey for that, when everything a vlogger needs, the R50V is doing. And I'm not saying that it does everything, but I'm saying what I'm trying to get at is there's a space in between that. Maybe they'll release it later on. There's a gap in between that I would say would hit around the $1,000 mark, maybe $1,200 mark. That needs to be filled for the V line. This camera being released, the R6V, I think honestly should have actually not been this. They should have actually released an R8V, would have been the perfect one to release. If I'm not mistaken, the R8 regular body price is somewhere around $1,200, $1,300. An R8V at about $1,000, that V-line body, which that little square body, which I would have posted photos up throughout this video, is honestly what they should have done. Is honestly what they should have done, because at that point, at $1,000, anyone who wants, and I'll tell you where that really breaks down to who that really satisfies and why. It'd be full frame for the vloggers, the videographers, the content creator who want a little bit more to play with. You don't have to make a 7K sensor in it, but shooting the raw, you could have simply made it a raw version of, I think the R8 shoots 4K up to 4K. I don't think it does 6K. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. I don't think I know it had the same sensor that was in the R6 Mark II. And I think I haven't done the research in a little while. So off the top of my memory, I think that it does a version of 4K, but I don't think it goes 6K. I think it was like a 6K sensor that was scaled down to 4K, if I'm not mistaken. But even if they did 4K and it was raw, they had the option for maybe raw 4K, or they had the option for raw 6K if the sensor is 6K sensor in the R8. You know, maybe you would make a new sensor. I don't know. But my point is, I'm trying to get at is you add the raw capabilities, because at some point you don't want to keep the raw only for the most expensive cameras. Give raw. It doesn't have to be the same level. It doesn't have to be open gate. You could just give the raw in the R8V. But aside from that, keep it the same for the most part, the specs of what an R8 will have, but $1,000. The reason why I say that is because then it would actually give a reason for people who are interested in the V line, which is content creators, to jump on it and say, it gives me a lot of features to make my content creation look extra jazzed up. I start learning to play with color grading while using RAW rather than using, you know, a recording format that, you know, doesn't grade as well. You know what I mean? You can grade something from a camera that doesn't shoot RAW. People have been doing it for years, but it's not on the same level. So it's almost giving a bridge for content creators who they want to have a little bit more with the full frame and this and that. They're not ready to leave their basic world of just basic content that they're doing where they need heavy color grading, but they start having that option. So to play around with it and get better. So maybe down the line, if they do want to start going to the higher level camera, they can. This is the reason why the V lines put these filters in it where you can just shoot, and it's almost like color grading built in when it's not raw, because you could do that. Now the R50V doesn't have raw, so you have those color filters, and then you have the picture style, you have the color filters, and then you have the it's kind of quote unquote raw replacement, or what you would use for color grading, which is C-Log3 or the Rec 709. While the R6V has the picture style, the color filters, and now it has its raw elements and all those other type of filming options. But you get what I'm saying here is that the gap doesn't really make sense. The R6V, it's great that it's $1,000 less than the C50. I'm sorry, the C50. It's great that it's cheaper than an R6 Mark III, but it really doesn't have a place for anybody who is either that kind of lower level videographer, or you want to hit to the realm of being a pro. Because for the person who has been using, we'll say, you know, an R8, for example, there's almost no reason to like, you're already doing filming with that. If you're doing that, say you're doing stuff like that and whatever the case is, there's almost your next step up when you're ready to go up is probably gonna be the C50. You know, you'll probably wait it out for that. It's this, you know, because at that price point at $2,400, you are going to be saying to yourself, it's not enough that I just wanted raw. I'm ready to step up, and I want XLR points. I want the handle that gives me the XLR points. I want all that extra stuff that brings me to the next level. The person who's ready to go to that $1,000 level is maybe the person coming from a R50V or maybe some kind of other older camera, and they're like, okay, I want to get into this space. I really think that it's kind of a miss. I think the camera itself can be good, but I think that it's if we had to look at it as like a graph or a grid, it's like you got one mark here, which is the R50V, a big gap here, and then now you have little finite in the, you know, like measures of, you could choose between this one, this one, but this big gap here, and then that is where it's a big issue, I feel, when it comes to that. So will this camera really sell well? I think that for people who just want a discount, it's gonna sell well for the people who want that discount. But I feel that it's going to end up really, the people who do get it, they're gonna be bothered after they get it. Like it's gonna get, and not right away, but I think at a certain point in time, they're gonna be like, I'm missing this, I'm missing that. And if those are the same people who are rolling with friends who have like C50s, they're gonna be like, I'm missing out on that next level audio or whatever the case is. Maybe not, maybe they could work with it and it could be fine. And I think it could be a good camera. A lot of people, you can also just get away with, like I said, your 3.5 headphone jack, and a lot of vloggers and all, they're able to do that. A lot of people are doing that now with like using coming from the R6 Mark II, now with the R6 Mark III, and they're doing, video recording, all that kind of stuff. And you can manage. I just feel like the V line kind of shouldn't go that high, because afterwards you transition to the C line, to the cinema line. It's almost like, imagine that they made an R5V and they're like, yeah, it's $3,000, or I think the R5 is like $3,500, which is kind of close to what the C is essentially. The C50 is like a cinema version of the R5. Now imagine they make an R5V and they go, yeah, this is the video V version of the R5. It's $3,400, but for $3,600, you can get a C50. You're gonna be like, it doesn't make sense. The V line should not start crossing into that realm. You get what I'm saying? You shouldn't have a C500V. You get what I'm saying? There's a point in time where like we're overlapping. And so the V line should be for the people who it's the affordable end, and the C line should be when it goes higher. So the V line should in theory not surpass the R8. And similarly, when the R8 came out versus the R6 Mark II. The R6 Mark II, if I'm not mistaken, came out at $2,400, I think. And the R8, I think at the time may have been like $1,500, but then sometime it's on sale now for like $1,200 some change or whatever the case is, because older. But my point is, the gap was so big. They both had the same sensor. The R8 and the R6 Mark II had the same sensor. They had a lot of other things that were not the same, but the gap in the price allowed most people to go, the R8, I know who it's for. There's a big difference. And the people who want the R8 are going to want the R8. The people who really need the R6 are going to get the R6. The R6V, and I know it's getting long now, the video, so I'm sorry about that, you guys. The R6V really does not, with how much it's missing, doesn't really make sense where it's at, because it doesn't make sense if you're really trying to be professional over the C50 just on the audio alone, because I know and anyone who's serious about videography, whatever case, knows the audio is really important. I've got friends and family who are really big into that space, and they're like, I like my XLR jacks. That stuff means a lot to them. Anyone who's professional at it, they know the audio is just as important as the video. And so with that being said, that makes it where it kind of puts it into a limbo space that you don't have the option except for buying for third parties that are not even that reliable. So yeah, that's my thoughts, you guys. They should have made an R8V at about somewhere between like maybe $1,000, $1,200. And at that point, the only thing you really need to have on it beyond, say what is on like a R8 or something like that, is just simply the ability to shoot RAW. Other than that, the form factor would have been like any typical V camera now, and that's really would have made sense. All the shortcomings wouldn't matter, because people would know at $1,000 or $1,200, we know who it's for. And the people who it's for would not have a problem with the shortcomings, because they're like, well, what I'm coming from, I'm fine with that. And if you look at any videos online, on YouTube or whatever, for people who have the R50V, they love it because it's portable, it's cheap, they can rig it up, and it does everything they need it to do at that price point. There's nothing that most people really complain about because they know for like $570 to $620 in that price range, they're like, it does everything I can ask for. And it's convenient and it gets me what I need. If I need higher than that, I'm gonna obviously go higher than that. But when I need a pinch, I just need to whatever, this does what I need it to do. And that is where the problem lies. The R6V is way too expensive to just be a kinda, I know where it lies and this is what I'm using it for. No, it blurs the line between, it should be bigger and greater, or it should be smaller and less. Smaller when I'm talking about power level and the features it has. It should be lower in its power features, or it should be higher. But where it sits at is just the worst place. Tell me what you guys think down below in the comments, you guys, because this is kind of like a thing where people are just putting out videos on it, first impressions, reviews, this and that, because it just dropped. But I don't think no one's really talking of it from a harsh standpoint of where it would really fit in actual consumer space. And I think in an actual consumer space, this camera makes almost no sense. All right, you guys, as always, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.